Anshul Jubli is India's only MMA fighter on the roster, but he has the potential to become one of the biggest stars in the sport. In only the last few months, he has gained hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, and it is mainly thanks to the Road to UFC tournament that he took place in at the end of last year and also the start of this year. He defeated Kyung Pyo Kim in the semi-finals in 2022, and then defeated Jeka Saragi at the beginning of this year to become an official UFC fighter and winning the lightweight tournament at Road to UFC. He now has his fight booked against Mike Breeden, and he will be making his official UFC debut against Mike Breeden in UFC 294. But let's talk about Anshul Jubli. How can he possibly become one of the biggest stars in the sport? And it really just comes down to the following that he has amassed from his local fans in India, because this guy has blown up big time. He's got over 400,000 followers on Instagram, and most of these followers have come in only the last few months or so. If you look at his Instagram page, you can see that he was gaining thousands of followers, sometimes hundreds of followers per month, and then over the course of October and November of last year, he gained 40,000 followers. That was when he defeated Kyung Pyo Kim. And then when he defeated Jeka Saragi and officially signed to the UFC, he gained 124,000 followers in that month. Since then, it has been a pretty steady climb, but then now that he's had a fight booked against Mike Breeden, he has gained over 100,000 followers in the month of August. And Anshul Jubli, he is everywhere. You go on YouTube, you can find interviews of this guy with Indian media, and he is getting millions of views. He's being talked about everywhere, but he just still hasn't quite made his UFC debut, and that's what I want to talk about here, and I want to talk about the potential that I do believe that Anshul Jubli could have representing India. As I said, he is the only fighter from India on the roster, but with Anshul Jubli's rapid rise and also his massive boost in stardom, you definitely could see more Indian fighters signed to the UFC soon, as they do kind of realize what they have in Anshul Jubli, which is a potential superstar. The reason why Anshul Jubli has become so big that he is right now, and why he probably will become even bigger of a star, is just the fact that India loves supporting other Indian people. Like, you see Anshul Jubli, he's the only fighter in the UFC. Of course they're going to get behind him, of course they're going to support them. But India in general, they love to support their fellow countrymen. They love to support people that represent India internationally, and Anshul Jubli is going to be one of those people. And another thing about India as well is the country of India has a very big population, so that means that there is a lot of people that can get behind Anshul Jubli, and that also means that a lot of people will be watching Anshul Jubli in the UFC. I think Anshul Jubli, I mean, with all of these factors, as well as the fact that he does have a likable personality, as well as the fact that he does want to build MMA in India and make India a big hub for MMA, could all add up to be a lot of good things. As I said, his debut is booked against Mike Breeden, and I think this is a pretty favourable matchup for Anshul Jubli. He definitely should be able to win this one here. Mike Breeden is dangerous. He is going to have power in the first round, but I think if Anshul Jubli can get out of the first round and get his grappling going, I think we should see a lot of success from Anshul. One thing that I will note about Anshul, he has a lot of potential as a fighter as well. When he took on Kyung Pyo Kim, this guy is a grappler. He's a pure grappler, is what I thought he was. And then he took on Kyung Pyo Kim, and he fought Kyung Pyo Kim in a purely striking matchup. And I thought he looked quite good. I still think that his striking looked a little bit green, but I could tell that it was still very close to being very, very good. And then he took on Jeka Saragi. And Jeka Saragi's a dangerous guy, man. And Anshul Jubli just went out there, out-wrestled him, out-grappled him, and just beat him up savagely. And that is really when he became a big star, when he officially signed to the UFC. The UFC got behind him. The media and MMA in India definitely got behind him as well. And that is how he gained 125,000 followers in 1 month. It's insane. And as for this matchup, as I said, I do think this is a very favourable matchup for Anshul Jubli. And it's going to tell us where he's at. Because if he goes out there and he dominates Mike Breeden, we can look at Anshul Jubli climbing the rankings a little bit. If he ends up having a close fight with Mike Breeden, the UFC will probably still give him a couple more favourable matchups just to see where he's at. But if he loses to Mike Breeden, then I think that the UFC is just going to have to really kind of give Anshul Jubli a slow roll, because Anshul Jubli is the kind of guy the UFC wants to keep around. He has massive, massive star potential. He really could be the face of Indian MMA. I would almost say that to India, I would say that he's like their Conor McGregor. You know, when Conor McGregor was coming up, I know this is an insane example, he was the face of Irish MMA. Anshul Jubli is the face of Indian MMA. And I think that we're going to see Anshul Jubli. I think he's got potential to go far as a superstar, but also has the potential to go far in the rankings as well. His striking is definitely a work in progress, but it's something that is getting better. But what makes Anshul Jubli so great is his grappling and his wrestling. I do believe in this matchup, Mike Breeden is going to look pretty dangerous in round number 1. But after that, I think Anshul Jubli should be able to take over and get a submission in round 2 or round 3. But I just wanted to kind of come out here, talk about Anshul Jubli, and just say, I think this guy could go far. I think he's definitely a future superstar in the sport. And if you agree, let me know what you think in the comments below.